You buy the course, $49, one click, lifetime access. You watch the first two lessons that night, feeling like a new person. By day 4, the tab's closed. By day 30, you've forgotten the login. That course is still sitting in your account right now, unfinished, next to 11 others just like it. That's not a discipline problem. That's a system you never built, dressed up as a plan you were never going to keep. And it's not just the course. It's the gym membership you swiped for in January and haven't used since March. It's the language app streak you were so proud of, sitting at 0 now. It's the budget spreadsheet, with exactly 1 week of entries in it. You keep starting, you keep stopping. And every time, you quietly file it under, I just need more discipline, when the actual problem was never inside you at all. Here's what nobody tells you. The plan wasn't the problem. The plan was fine. Study after work, go to the gym at 6 a.m., read for an hour before bed. Those are good plans. They just require you to be the most focused, most energized, least distracted version of yourself every single day, forever. And you're not that person every day. Nobody is. So tonight we're doing 3 things. First, I'm going to expose exactly why every willpower-based plan you've ever made was engineered to fail. And it's not because of you. Second, I'm going to run the real numbers on what that failure actually costs you, not just in wasted subscriptions, but in the income and opportunities you never got back. And third, I'm going to hand you the exact structural fix, the same one I've used, to help people stop white-knuckling their way through goals and start actually finishing them. Let's start with the trap. It's called relying on willpower, and almost every plan you've ever made is built entirely on top of it. Willpower is not a skill. It's not a personality trait. It's closer to a mood. It goes up and down based on how much sleep you got, how stressful your day was, how many decisions you've already made since you woke up. Researchers call the decline decision fatigue, the idea that every choice you make throughout the day, from what to wear to how to respond to a difficult email, draws down a shared mental resource. By 7 p.m., when most people schedule their self-improvement, that resource is running on fumes. You didn't fail to go to the gym because you're weak. You failed because you scheduled the hardest task of your day for the exact moment you have the least capacity to do it. Here's the pattern I want you to notice, because once you see it, you can't unsee it. You set an intention. I need to learn Excel. You turn that intention into a plan. I'll do a lesson every night after dinner. The plan looks reasonable on paper, but it makes one hidden assumption that future you, tired, distracted, dealing with whatever the day throws at you, is going to show up and execute it anyway. That assumption is the entire flaw. You're not planning for your actual life. You're planning for a version of your life where nothing goes wrong, and then feeling like a failure every single time something does. This shows up everywhere. The person who buys a gym membership in January and stops going by February. The person who downloads a language app, hits a 40-day streak, misses one day, and never opens it again. The person who tells themselves they'll start budgeting next month, every month for 2 years straight. None of these people lack ambition. They've got plenty of that. What they lack is a structure that survives contact with a bad day, and bad days are not the exception. Bad days are most days. Notice also that the plan almost never fails because of one dramatic disaster. It fails because of something small and boring. Traffic runs 15 minutes long. Your kid needs help with homework right when you sat down. A coworker sends a message that ruins your focus for 20 minutes. None of that is a crisis. It's just Tuesday. But a willpower-based plan has zero tolerance for Tuesday because it was never designed to absorb friction. It was only designed to work in a frictionless world that doesn't exist. And once the plan breaks once, something worse happens. You don't just skip a day, you often abandon the entire goal. Because the emotional story you tell yourself isn't, I missed a session, it's, I failed again. And that story is heavier than any single missed workout or missed lesson ever was. There's also a quieter version of this trap, the one where you technically succeed but at enormous cost. You do grind through the plan through sheer force of will for a few weeks, maybe even a couple of months. But because it was never built for repeatability, It runs entirely on a finite reserve of motivation, and reserves run out. You burn out, not because the goal was wrong, but because the method of pursuing it was never sustainable in the first place. Burnout gets blamed on the goal itself. Guess this just isn't for me, when really it should be blamed on a system that demanded a constant, unrealistic level of energy to function at all. And here's the part that actually stings. Every time a plan like this collapses, you don't just lose the plan, you lose trust in yourself. You start every new attempt slightly more cynical than the last, because some part of you already expects it to fail the same way the last 12 did. That erosion is quiet, but it compounds, and it is arguably more expensive than anything you spend money on. Which brings us to the money. Because this isn't just costing you time and self-trust. It's costing you real, countable dollars. And most people have never actually run the numbers. Let's start small. The average unused gym membership runs about $70 a month. That's $840 a year for a treadmill you never touched. Add a language app subscription at $12 a month, a meditation app at $10, two abandoned online courses at roughly $200 combined, and a planner and productivity app bundle at another $150 for the year. Add it up, and you're looking at close to $1,400 a year spent on tools for a system you never actually built. That's not a moral failing. That's just money spent solving the wrong problem, over and over, every year on repeat. But that $1,400 is the cheap part. The expensive part is what you didn't gain. Say you're a mid-level employee and the skill you keep failing to learn, whether it's a certification, a second language, an advanced spreadsheet skill, whatever it is the exact thing standing between you and a promotion that pays $8,000 more a year. Every year you don't finish it because your system keeps collapsing at week 3 is a year you don't get that raise. Push that promotion back 3 years instead of 1, and you haven't just lost $8,000. You've lost $24,000 in base pay, plus every raise that would have compounded on top of that higher salary, plus every year of retirement contributions calculated off a smaller number. Now run that delayed $24,000 through a simple compound growth calculation. If that money had gone into an index fund instead of never existing at all, averaging a conservative 7% a year, over 20 years it would have grown to roughly $93,000. That's not the raise itself. That's what the raise would have become if you'd actually gotten it 3 years earlier and simply let it sit and grow. The abandoned plan didn't just cost you time. It quietly cost you 6 figures of future wealth, and you never even saw the bill because it's a bill for something that never happened. Let's take it one layer further, because most people stop the math at one delayed raise and think that's the whole story. It isn't. Say instead of one abandoned goal, you've got the pattern repeating on 3 separate fronts over 5 years. The certification that would have unlocked a promotion, the side skill that would have let you freelance for extra income, and the budgeting system that would have kept a steady $200 a month actually invested instead of leaking out through subscriptions and impulse spending. Individually, each one looks survivable. A missed course here, a skipped budget there. Stacked together over 5 years, the combined opportunity cost, promotion delay, missed freelance income, and unrealized investing lands somewhere in the neighborhood of $150,000 once you project it forward another 15 years at a reasonable growth rate. Nobody sits down and calculates that number, which is exactly why nobody feels the urgency to fix the actual system underneath it. The cost is real. It's just invisible, spread out over years, disguised as a series of small, forgivable failures instead of one big, obvious one. So now you understand the trap, and you understand the price tag. Here's the fix, and it's not another app, another planner, another 5-step morning routine you'll abandon by Thursday. It's a structural shift in how you build the plan in the first place. The fix has 3 parts, and you run them in this order every single time you're building a new goal. Part 1. Audit for failure before you even start. Before you write a single plan, sit down and list every single reason your last 3 attempts at something similar fell apart. Not vague reasons like, I got busy. Specific ones, I was too tired after work. My phone was in the same room and I scrolled instead. My partner wanted to talk right when I sat down to study. You're building an evidence file on your own failure patterns, because that file is the actual design brief for the system you're about to build. Most people skip the step entirely and go straight to picking a new productivity app, which is exactly why the new plan fails for the exact same reasons as the old one. Part 2. Design for your worst day, not your best one. This is the single biggest shift. Stop asking, what does my ideal routine look like? Start asking, what is the version of this that I can still do even when I'm exhausted, annoyed, and running 20 minutes behind? If your plan only works when everything goes right, it's not a system, it's a wish. So if your evidence file says you're too tired after work, don't schedule the hard task for after work. Move it to before work, or to your lunch break, or physically leave the house and do it somewhere your couch and your fridge can't reach you. If your phone is the problem, the fix isn't have more willpower around your phone. The fix is putting the phone in a different room before you sit down, so the temptation is structurally removed instead of something you have to resist 40 times a day. Part 3. Treat every fix as temporary until you've solved the actual root cause. This is the step almost nobody does, and it's the one that makes the system last for years instead of weeks. If you're using a nap and a timer to force yourself through a study session, that's fine for now, but it's a patch, not a cure. The real issue underneath it is probably that you're not sleeping enough or your attention span has been wrecked by constant notifications. So while you use the patch to keep moving today, you simultaneously start a second, slower project, fixing your sleep schedule, or training your focus back up in small increments. Once that root cause is actually handled, you remove the patch because a system loaded up with permanent patches eventually collapses under its own weight. The goal isn't to need the nap forever. The goal is to need it less and less until you don't need it at all. Let's make this concrete with one example, start to finish. Say the goal is learning a professional certification, something with real exams and real material to get through. Step 1. The audit tells you that your last 2 attempts died because you tried to study at night and your brain was fried by 9 p.m. Step 2. Designing for the worst day means you don't schedule study time for 9 p.m. ever again. Instead, you block 25 minutes before work every single day, non-negotiable, because mornings are when your evidence file shows you actually have energy. On days you're running late, the fallback isn't zero. It's a 10-minute version on your phone during your commute, so the chain never fully breaks. Step 3. Treating the fix as temporary means you also start working on the root cause in parallel. Getting to bed 30 minutes earlier so that eventually, once your sleep is fixed, you could study at night again if you wanted to. But you're not depending on that improvement to happen before the system starts working. The system works today, on day 1, with the resources you actually have, not the resources you wish you had. Run those 3 steps, in that order, every time a plan you've made keeps failing, and you'll notice something. Your plans stop being vague intentions and start becoming specific instructions with built-in contingencies. Not I'll exercise after work, but I exercise at 7 a.m. before the house wakes up. And if I miss it, I do a 15-minute version at lunch instead of skipping the day entirely. That second version survives a bad day. The first one doesn't. Now, I already know what you're thinking because I hear it from almost everyone I've ever coached through this. This sounds like a lot of upfront thinking just to build a habit. Isn't it easier to just start and figure it out as I go? Here's the problem with that. You've already tried just start and figure it out. That's what every failed plan you've ever made actually was. It wasn't a lack of starting. You started 100 times. The issue was never the starting line. It was that nothing was built to survive past week 2, so you kept ending up back at the same starting line, over and over, spending the same money and the same motivation on the same false start. The upfront audit takes maybe 20 minutes. Compare that to the months, sometimes years, you've already spent restarting the same goal from scratch because the first version was never designed to last. There's a second objection too, and it's the one that sounds smarter, which is, but every situation is different. You can't design around every single failure point in advance. You're right, you can't predict everything. Nobody's asking you to build a system with 0 flaws on the first try. What you're doing is designing for the 2 or 3 failure points that keep showing up over and over in your evidence file, the repeat offenders, not the rare one-off. If traffic runs long twice a year, ignore it. If you're too tired after work 5 nights out of 7, that's not an edge case anymore. That's the actual shape of your life, and it deserves to be designed around instead of white-knuckled to every single week. And if you're worried this feels rigid, too structured, too much like turning your life into a spreadsheet, understand this: the goal of a good system isn't to remove flexibility. It's to remove your dependency on motivation, which is the single least reliable resource you have. A well-built system actually gives you more freedom, not less, because you stop spending mental energy negotiating with yourself every single day about whether today is going to be the day you follow through. The decision gets made once, at the design stage, instead of getting relitigated every morning when you're tired and would rather just not. So think back to that course sitting in your account, the one you paid $49 for and never finished. It's not evidence that you're lazy. It's evidence that the plan around it was never built to survive an average Tuesday. The fix was never wanted more. The fix was building something that doesn't need you to want it every single day in order to work. Take 20 minutes this week, before you touch another app or buy another course, and write down the real reasons your last attempt died. Then build the version that survives your worst day, not your best one. That's the whole difference between someone who's tried 100 things and finished none of them, and someone who quietly, consistently keeps their word to themselves. You don't have a discipline problem. You have an unbuilt system. Go build one on your best day so it can carry you through all the ones that aren't.